What's up, humans? My name is David, and I help people develop self-awareness and self-compassion. And welcome to another Blue Chair Talks. These are weekly, unscripted videos that I do, and it's about 5 or 10 minutes of a talk or a chat, and then followed up by about a 10-minute guided meditation every week. And I'm so excited about today's meditation and today's talk. Today's talk is an extremely necessary, like a mandatory counterpart and follow-up to last week's talk. Last week's talk was about the 3 dimensions of the human experience, and today is about the oneness of human experience. And really, it almost goes without saying, right? That we are unitary, we are one, right? This is sort of the most obvious thing. I am me, and my wife is her, right? That's Britta over there. This is me here. I'm David. Okay, I'm a separate thing, human being, person, and I'm one being, right? So really, perhaps then the main question is, what kind of being do you want to be? And so, sort of not really in rebuttal, it's a both and, but in contrast to last week's focus on the 3 dimensions of human experience, this week our focus is sort of more on the oneness and the unitariness of the human experience. And in particular, I just sort of want to address how to hold the fact that we have that 3-dimensional experience, or that sometimes it feels like there are actually different parts of us. Well, in reference specifically to the 3 dimensions that I explained last week, I think of that as, in a really good way, a utilitarian concept. What that means is that understanding the human experience through those 3 different lenses, or 3 different dimensions, has a utility. It is helpful, particularly in developing self-awareness, and definitely developing self-compassion, and also compassion and understanding for other humans who experience life differently than we do. But anything that is utilitarian needs to be reintegrated, I think is what I would say. And an easy picture for this is sort of when we're investigating something, or when someone says, yeah, take a closer look. Well, if we take a closer look, if we like sort of zoom in on something, look really closely at it, and we never zoom back out and reintegrate what we learned into the bigger picture, then that is clearly a problem. And almost all of us have experienced some sort of problem like this. Maybe you've said, like, oh, I was just too close to the situation. I couldn't sort of think clearly about it, or you just didn't realize in the moment, in the heat of the moment, how those choices or what happened there in that one situation could actually affect the bigger picture, and you didn't realize it till later. Well, this is an extremely common experience for humans, is this being too close to something and failing to integrate it into the bigger picture. One pretty tragic example of that is the externalities of our capitalist system, where things are looking pretty good in the short term, right here and right now. I have a pretty comfortable house to live in. I'm so grateful for that. But as I zoom out, well, that doesn't integrate all that well in the more long term, in the bigger picture. So it's complicated and it's tricky, but for our individual human experience, so getting back to developing self-awareness and self-compassion, this is a generally awesome principle. Anytime we're zooming in on something, we're taking a closer look, we do need to remember to zoom back out and reintegrate and re-engage the bigger picture. So I thought I would really quickly point to the idea that we have a preferred and a least preferred dimension of the human experience, because that actually is a form of imbalance or a failure to integrate all three of those parts of us into the bigger picture that is our oneness of being. So, for example, if I tend to place higher value and prioritize my feelings more than my embodiment and my actions and indeed my body, this is a failure on my part to engage and honor my holistic humanity, right? I am sort of, in a sense, too zoomed in on my feelings, and it's kind of hard to realize, like, oh yeah, there are other parts of my experience. And then, by virtue of being so, as it were, zoomed in on my feelings, I sort of think everybody else must experience reality that way, or maybe even should experience reality that way. But no, they don't, and I'm pretty sure that's not fair to say that they should. These are imbalances that we all have, and that's really hard to even notice. But once we notice it, and we zoom in, we start learning more about these three dimensions of the human experience, it's really important to start to be able to zoom back out, to reintegrate and to balance the three dimensions of our human experience. And so we need ways of doing that. And really quick sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge preview of next week's talk based on this guy. I want to just give a quick picture of another way that there are different aspects of our human experience, and that is to talk about the ego. The ego is the experience that your brain is pretty much consistently generating of being a you. So, like I said, you are one being, but also within you, there's this beingness experience happening inside of your brain, inside of your mind, that feels like a you. And it's the you that sort of feels like slightly behind your eyes, somewhere in your head, that's almost like a smaller you riding around inside your head. So this is ego. There's so much fun stuff to dive into and to unpack in there. But the main point for us today is that this is an experience that your mind is generating, and it doesn't really like change. So this idea of recognizing that we may have an imbalance in the dimensions of our human experience and trying to effect a change towards rebalancing, this is really hard work because the ego desperately resists change. So we need practices that move us in that direction, that loosen the fearful and desperate grip of the ego, and that prepare the soil for this healthy change, this movement in the direction of psychological flexibility. Also, I'm happy to report, in the movement of self-compassion and greater compassion for others. There are a number of these practices. Earth care and being connected to nature, I think, actually is one great example. But probably the most potent and the most direct, of course, is meditation. So, more on that in the weeks to come. But for today, let's settle in wherever you are. Hopefully it is somewhere that you deem conducive to meditation. If not, feel free to pause this now and pick it up again later when it's a better time to actually sit down for about 10 minutes and let us reorient our attention and also our broader awareness to this present moment, what is real here and now. And one of the best ways to do that is to take stock of what we are feeling in our bodies. So go ahead and take a few nice deep breaths. Roll out some muscles and see if you can bring your body into as relaxed a state as you're able. Any tension that you recognize within your body, keep taking those deep breaths, and as you exhale, see if you can release that tension. Center your attention on the physical feelings associated with breathing, but allow your broader awareness to be as wide as possible. Keep taking in every part of your experience. Anytime you recognize that you become distracted, that's normal and that's okay. That is an opportunity to start again. Bring the attention back to the breath. Allow awareness to be as wide as possible. And enjoy. meditation is perhaps the perfect time to start to notice, gain better awareness of, and rebuild a new relationship with the three dimensions of your humanity. With our eyes closed and trying to maintain our attention on something as mundane as the breath, the most obvious distractions come from our thoughts. Unless you have some extreme physical pain, the thing you'll probably be noticing most is your distracting thoughts. The dimension of feelings are the most subtle usually, the most difficult to notice, unless they become strong enough. For example, if your experience of boredom, your feeling of boredom becomes strong enough in meditation, it may drive you to give up entirely. Strong feelings really take over, dominate our experience. But most of the time, feelings are in the form of pretty subtle moods, minor biases that are affecting our thoughts and our bodies, but are really difficult to notice. One of the reasons we start with the breath and we come back to the breath is because the body is so grounded and so reliable. And yet, often surprisingly easy to ignore as we go through our daily lives. As we wrap up today's Blue Chair Talk, I want to invite you this week to see if you can notice this three and also oneness of your being. The ego is invested in its ideas of those three dimensions. See maybe if you can even notice which one you tend to prefer and which one maybe you tend to ignore. It can be difficult. But this is the good work, my friends. I wish you well this week in your journey of developing self-awareness and self-compassion. And I hope to see you again next week for another talk and another guided meditation. Until then, know your mind, love your life.